This is iDesign Lab, a podcast where creativity and curiosity meet style and design. Curator of interiors, furnishings, and lifestyles. Hosted by Tiffany Woolley, an interior designer and a style enthusiast, along with her serial entrepreneur husband, Scott. iDesign Lab is your ultimate design podcast, where we explore the rich and vibrant world of design and its constant evolution in style and trends. iDesign Lab provides industry insight, discussing the latest trends, styles, and everything in between to better help you style your life through advice from trendsetters, designers, influencers, innovators, fabricators, and manufacturers, as well as personal stories that inspire, motivate, and excite. And join us on this elevated, informative, and lively journey into the world of all things design. Today we're joined by Matt Williams, a true example of resilience and reinvention. After a wake-up call in 2010, Matt embraced sobriety and founded FroPro Snack Bar, a company focused on healthy living and supporting the recovery community. Now, as a recovery coach, Matt mentors men, empowering them to overcome challenges and build fulfilling lives. With a background in teaching, personal training, and behavioral health, Matt's journey inspires us all to embrace purpose and transformation. Let's dive into his story.
Today, we'd like to welcome Matt Williams to the iDesign Lab podcast, who is a true testament to resilience and reinvention. And we look forward to diving into an awesome conversation together.
So I think the first thing we want to ask is, tell us a little about yourself, because you got an amazing company that we'd love to talk about that you've designed.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me on the show. It's great to be sitting down with you both, as we met years ago through a mutual friend, and it's crazy how time flies. But my name is Matt Williams. I'm the creator, founder of FroPro Snack Bar, which is a organic peanut butter snack bar that is sold in about 36 states. Grocery stores, retail, pretty much you name it, gyms, juice bars, doctors' offices, and started from a little idea in a kitchen, in my kitchen, with a little KitchenAid and a perfect tray brownie cutter.
One of those
things.
Kids are obsessed with that thing.
Yeah. So it just was something that I started making for myself and sharing with the people that were in the community that I knew, and families, and being a former teacher of fourth grade and a baseball coach, and knowing certain families in the area from St. Andrews and other schools. As I stayed down here to kind of start my life over, had a lot of people that were super supportive and gave me a chance. Our mutual friend that introduced us being one of them. And it's crazy how much, as we were, before the show was starting, just talking about how much time has passed and what's transpired and all the good things. So, yeah.
So what made you think of snack? Or did you feel there was a need for it?
Well, it's funny. Most of the brands that are out there, it's somebody that creates something where they think there's a need for it.
Right?
And I always share that I didn't create FroPro to be a business. I was making it for myself. I was bicycling around town as I had lost my driver's license due to my poor decision making, and as a result of that, everywhere I went, I had these little peanut butter snack bars in my backpack with my change of clothes and all that stuff that I was out for the day with,
right?
And would share it with either my clients, the clients' kids that I was either training.
That you were training.
Yeah, that I was either training or tutoring in school, and it just kind of went from sharing it with certain people to having the opportunity to share it in a friend's gym that I was training out of, and their clients, which led to one lady that happened to be there asking what was in the product, and then giving me kind of some coaching in the fact that the ingredients I used were good, but they could be better. And I took those suggestions and kind of reformulated the product so it would be plant-based, because a lot of people have trouble digesting dairy. And brought it to her, and she said, "This is great, make me 100. And I had never done that. I had only, I had a tray.
So did you do that in your kitchen? Or
Yep.
did you go to one of those cooking?
Yeah, no, I literally was doing everything out of my little kitchen at home in Boynton Beach, where I was living at the time, little one bedroom with my girlfriend, who's now my wife, Chelsea, and figured out very rudimentary packaging, essentially Glad press and seal wrap that I would cut and wrap the bars in. I'd put a little sticker on it. And
did the product change in taste or consistency when you changed the
Not entirely.
So you were happy with the second sort of...
Yeah, I mean, as long as it tasted good. And I think everybody says, well, why does your bar stand out? One of the main reasons our bars stand out is because it's good.
They do taste good, right?
Yeah, the actual product, what goes into it, we know the ingredients. We manufacture everything in-house since we started to today. We don't use a co-packer, and some people have their thoughts on that. But we have an amazing facility, an amazing team. But in starting the product, in changing and listening to people that were, I would say, more well-versed in the industry and in food production and how people are able to eat, and nutritionists and all of that, I took suggestions and ran with it. And the result was delivering 100 bars to this woman and her juice bar before juice bars exploded down here.
Right.
So she had a retail location that she was selling them then?
Yep. She asked for 100 bars. I gave her 100 bars. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what to charge her because I didn't create it to be a business.
Right.
She basically said, when I sell out of these, this is what I'll pay you. And because she asked me, she's like, what did this cost to make? And I was like, I have no idea. You told me to do it, so I did it. Right? And
she told you to do it.
Yeah,
trial by error.
Exactly.
Error by whatever.
Yeah, I had no clue what I was doing, and still sometimes feel like I don't. But what was great about it is I gave her the product. I ran out of there because I didn't want her to change her mind because I was like, this is so cool.
Right.
And
how long ago was this? How many years ago?
This was in 2011.
2011, okay.
Yeah, so it was just, I dropped those bars off, ran out of there. 3 days later, she called me. She goes, hey, I need 100 more. I sold out. And she'd put them at, you call point of sale. She'd put them right by the register because people were going there for smoothies, juices, and other healthy items. And mine was an add-on. You know, and at the point of sale, it's like, hey, would you like this healthy snack for later? It's not a meal replacement. It didn't take away from their business because they were selling essentially like a meal.
Right.
And mine was just a snack for later. And
I call that an impulse item.
Correct. Impulse item, point of sale item, whatever it is. And it worked. And she ordered 100 more and introduced me to another person who had a juice bar in Delray, which introduced me to another person, which introduced me to another person, and that's how it started.
So now you're making all these bars at home and you're cellophane kind of wrapping them.
Correct.
So at what point does a light bulb go off going?
Yeah, what was my question? It was like, when did that design decision become like, let's create a business or let's do this and take it more seriously?
Yeah.
Like, we've got something here.
Seriously,
did you make or think about that, or did someone kind of plant the seed or push you?
Well, the initial idea when I was taking it around one of my clients' mothers was like, I think you have something here. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Because I didn't call it anything. It was just like the bar. I just had a bar.
Gotta hear how
and
the
I
name
made it, and it
came
was
about.
frozen protein, FroPro. And she's the one that bought the first website with my credit card. And I was like super nervous because I didn't really have any money at the time because I was just starting over at 28. And that's kind of how it started. So with getting to that point of like either taking it seriously, what I did know is that
something here.
Right. What I did know is that I didn't want to be making the bar in my house. Because in Florida, with all the green markets and all the pop-up things, you could do, you could have a product under the Cottage Act, which allows people to know that if you purchase this product, it's made in someone's home, and some people are cool with that, and others are not.
Right.
I wanted it to be a little bit more legit, so I found essentially a commissary kitchen.
Right, I've heard that where they they're all sanitized.
Rent space.
To
Locally?
Locally, this kitchen was out in West Boca at essentially where the old post office was off of Clintmore and 441. It was tucked back as west as you could go.
Were they doing similar type products, or were they a bakery? Or
It was actually a juice company at one time.
Okay.
And I knew the guy that owned it. He had the space used for at certain times. And in the times that he wasn't using it, so I didn't get in the way, I rented space from him, and I was there for a couple years. And then I actually moved right down the road from here in Boynton, right off Congress and that industrial development. Just right down the road. I forget the side road, and I moved there. And then in
And were you still mixing the concoctions
there?
there?
Still using tabletop mixers.
Right. I know they have those industrial sizes and.
Yeah, not like we hadn't graduated to that until about a couple years ago.
Okay.
But,
the Hobart mixers.
Yeah, got the big Hobarts. But we went from like a tabletop to a slightly bigger, as much as we went to the biggest one that you could keep on a stainless steel table without it, crushing under its weight.
Right.
And I had went from essentially the little cutters and like the little metal trays for perfect brownie mixer thing, to a food mold company that I had connected with from a food show out in Chicago that essentially had imprints of our product in a silicone tray, and you'd make the product, put it in there, and then we would freeze it. And at one point we had, I think, like 16 deep chest freezers that you could stack the product in. And
so is it a frozen product?
It started out that way.
Yeah,
it started out that way. And now we necessarily didn't need to, and everyone says, why would you go into the cold space? And to my own ignorance, I don't know why I did, but what was great about being
What was your reasoning for thinking behind that?
I'm just a dessert guy.
Right, he liked it chilled.
I like it cold.
Yeah.
Because it limits you from a retail standpoint.
Sure. I didn't know that, though. I had no clue. I just said I like my food cold. And, there are people that, some mutual friends of ours that know that kind of played devil's advocate. And they're like, really? A cold bar in Florida? Like, isn't that a pretty stupid thing? And I said, maybe it is. But what's great about it is the category that we're in now, the only other products that are there are maybe 5 or 6 compared to if we're on the dry shelf, there's
dozens. You're right.
300-400 that you could choose,
right.
And it sits. You listen to any of the nutritionists, or you listen to anybody that, back then it was the only one really doing it was Perfect Bar. RX Bar had just come out too. But what was interesting is that you go into the grocery store and a lot of people say, don't go in those middle aisles. Don't shop where stuff is sitting on the shelves for too long.
You shop the peripheral.
You shop the peripheral.
Staples are in the middle.
Correct. And they say, quote unquote, the fresher of the foods are in the refrigerated or in the outside.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I didn't have.
That's just another positive then on your.
So I had no clue, and that's how we started. And I had many people say, make it shelf stable. I'm like, it is shelf stable. And one thing we did run into that was a problem was we basically said it's best served chilled, but it doesn't have to be. And when you tell a buyer that,
correct,
and they hear that, it doesn't have to be in the refrigerator. Oh, that's not my category. You got to get out of here.
Confusing them.
Geez, the stuff you learn when you're like
So when people and people still to this day, I accidentally left my bar in my gym bag, or I left it in my golf bag, or it was in the car, and I'm like,
does it say on the bar that it has to be refrigerated, or
no? It just says best served chilled.
That's so okay.
So there's nothing in the bar that can spoil. Even the products that we do put into it, freeze dried, anything.
What's your shelf life?
So in the refrigerator, we say 3 to 6 months. In the freezer, 6 to 9 or longer. In the refrigerator, it can last up to 9 months.
That's a short shelf life.
Compared to our competitors, it's 7 to 10 days.
Really?
Yeah. So we can be in the refrigerator for a period of time. So when we produce, we put a 9-month, essentially best eaten by 9 months of production.
But there's no dairy in it, correct?
No dairy. Yeah, no dairy, no soy, no egg. Yeah.
So what's the reason? Just because you like it chilled?
Selfishly, yes.
Okay.
But I love the idea because now that we are more paying attention than say we were in 2014 when you were starting, I mean, we are about shopping the perimeter, and we are about wholesome ingredients. Now we're all more mindful, I feel like, than ever.
Yeah, I want to say we were ahead of the trend before it was a trend.
Without a doubt.
But like, it wasn't intentional, and I don't
so
want to say that.
So at what point did you put packaging, or did you have to create a logo and design a packaging and so forth?
So it was interesting. I have two older brothers. My oldest brother was he's a professor, and he taught marketing, and he taught kind of that thing. So I actually had exposure to people that were essentially doing projects for free. So one of the initials was like he had one of his students. He gave it to his
class to do.
He basically said, hey, create a logo for this company.
I love it.
And that was our first logo. There's been many iterations since. The packaging went from obviously plastic wrap to a U-line, which you're familiar with, essentially a package you could open, and you could essentially open and close, which was our next. But why we changed from the open and a close to a completely sealed was we were still relatively new. We were in, I believe, one of the local stores. We're probably like 10 stores in, and the Department of Health was at that store. And asked the owner, what is this product and why is this missing on this product? She says, oh, that's Matt. He's great. Call Matt. And I had the Department of Health. This guy called me and he goes, your product is not suitable for stores and I need you to pull off all your product.
Oh, jeez.
What was the reason for that?
Because of the ability to open and close said product. So,
I could tell you that there's a little bit of what payola that takes care of that with.
Yeah. that was my first exposure. But what was great about it is they were very kind. They said, we understand this is a learning experience, and we understand that you're learning this process as you go, and we're going to help you out here. Fortunately, at that time, we were only essentially in 10 stores and some shelves, and we weren't doing a ton of volume yet. And I was able to pull off the product, essentially
repackage it,
essentially give the stores their money back, but they're like, we want
more product.
We want the product,
which is a great feeling.
Right. And so we then were able to take our packaging and do essentially a heat seal, which sealed the package completely, and it was a tearaway strip. And since then, we've moved to a full machine, a flow wrapper that, it looks like, if you remember the I Love Lucy, it's like a full conveyor belt. Bar goes in, wraps it, dumps it.
So you overcame an obstacle.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, all the things that we overcame were learning situations. Like, it wasn't, hey, we should do this, because we knew what we were doing.
Right. Yeah. You'd be surprised how many people would just give up and say, oh, the Board of Health, the Department of Health just came down, had me pull the product.
Oh, yeah.
Let's scrap this idea.
And I've heard that over the years. I'm sure you've talked to people that are entrepreneurs.
Oh, yeah.
You guys have been successful in a lot of things that you've done. And a lot of the times it can be very devastating, and it can be very like, oh, this is a stupid idea. I failed. And
can
again,
never go.
Right. And there are days like that, though. We have days where we're like, what are we doing? This is ridiculous. Like, this is so expensive and
so time consuming.
So do you have your own facility now that you're packaging?
Yeah,
making?
we're 1200 Clintmore Road. We tell people to drop by. As long as we're not in active production, even though we have the hairnets, and people can, like, the Department of Health can come anytime, and they have, in the middle of anything they want. But yeah, we tell people to come by and see it. You want to see where the product, you want to see the raw materials.
I love
everything's
that.
Right here. We don't hide anything. We're very transparent. Like, that's what I think one of the cool things about our product is not only can we have people and we feel confident in what we do and how we operate in our team, but we tell people, come by. You want to see the operation.
So you have one line that kind of...
So we have a giant Hobart mixer, and we mix, it becomes very heavy, which is so funny when you think about where we started. But, we mix this huge product. It goes onto one machine that we invested in 2 years ago, which essentially it's called a slab machine. And you dump this, what looks like cookie dough, essentially, say like the dough or the bar material. It flattens it. One thing we customized that we always thought we thought was cool is our bar says our name on it.
Yeah.
And from the molds, it was like, well, how do we do that? And the machine company basically said, well, we can create a stamp that stamps the product. Right. So it literally gets rolled twice, stamped, carbon fiber cuts it into sections, and then it goes through another cutter, which you can make the bar as big, as small as you want. And dimensions are really cool. And then it drops onto a cookie tray. Cookie tray goes into the rolling racks, sits in the chiller for a little while, and then it goes right on the machine, gets packaged, and then into the boxes and out to the customer.
So what's the whole time frame go to, from the time it's in the mixing or even just the ingredients?
Yeah, so what we like to do is we like to produce on one day, so make as many as we can on one day, and then the next day run the machine. So could we do it in the same day? Absolutely. But what it's nice is it gives it a little break, and we have the capability of running 24/7. We just, as of right now, we don't do it because we're at a certain level where it's we're at that plateau of we're ready to punch through. We're ready for more territories. We're ready for more retail opportunities. We have the full capability to run 24/7. We just haven't done it yet.
So do you have a staff now that's just handles that, or do you do it yourself?
Absolutely amazing team. There are days that I do jump in because I miss it.
Yeah. I bet.
I do.
Yeah,
my wife Chelsea is the CEO. She runs the show. I think it was 2 years ago we made it a women-owned business because what we do really well is she sits at the control panel. She runs everything from the office. She loves that. I don't want to say behind the scenes because she very much runs the show. We have an amazing director of operations that started, we've known her since middle school. She lost her job in COVID and started with us part-time.
Unbelievable, yeah.
And stuck around, and now she is the director of operations right underneath Chelsea. And we've hired a lot of people that have come through South Florida for, different reasons, substance abuse, that get sober and need a job that's...
Give them a fresh start.
Essentially a fresh start in a place.
Because you're giving back to that community.
Like our mutual friend did for me.
Correct.
Gave me the chance. And I think it's really important. We've had people come and go in a week. We've had people come and stay for a couple months. But it gives people a safe place, a good job where they can show up. It's a good environment. Like, we have a great team, and we hate to see people leave, and we hate when they want to do other things. But we also understand you got to do what you got to do.
It's life.
100%.
Life's a revolving door. People are.
That's right.
So do you plan on ever branching out and adding to the line? I know you have multiple flavors.
So how many SKUs do you have?
Man, we've had so many SKUs.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you're changing SKUs?
Yeah. So again, we base everything either off a cacao base, which is our chocolate. We don't use milk products, so it's a cacao base, which is our chocolate, and or vanilla, and then we kind of go from there. So everything would be called kind of a sweet snack bar, and it's a variation on either of those two. We know which SKUs do better and have done better, and
What is the best-selling one?
Toasted marshmallow.
Toasted marshmallow.
Followed by birthday cake, vanilla,
I like
chocolate chip,
cake.
and the
Wow.
regular.
So how many different SKUs or flavors do you have?
So we expanded. So we had, when we launched in Whole Foods, we launched with just 4, which was chocolate, vanilla, mint, and coffee, which are the only flavors we had.
And in the refrigerated section?
In the refrigerated
right at the
section.
checkout. Yeah.
Yep.
At the checkout, so it's in a little...
in the
one of
middle,
those
like in
open-ended
between the
coolers.
two, yeah.
Yep. And
Okay.
sometimes we have multiple locations depending. Like Whole Foods here has been really good to us. The Boca location, we did a special bar for the Delray location. I'm going to share this because it's a cool fun fact. We did more sales the first week of Delray Beach Whole Foods opening.
Than any product.
We beat water. Bottled
Yeah.
water. We beat water, which was outrageous.
Yeah.
At that time, Beyond Meat, those
Yeah,
vegetarian
yeah.
things were like the rage.
They
We did
were.
more than them. And it caused a little like wave where National was like, what is going on
Yeah.
with this product? And they're like, it's their hometown. And
Right.
they're like, that's great, but these numbers are ridiculous.
Yeah, it's
Right.
so
And
exciting.
Very exciting.
Well, I know myself when I first went to that Whole Foods when it opened, I thought it was so cool. So I hadn't seen that many flavors ever together. So I was like, oh, I get to grab a few
yeah.
additional flavors.
And it's like not common.
Right.
So as we expanded nationally with them into new territories, we are now just doing the top 3 flavors. We started with 9 in Whole Foods, and then we went down to 6, the top 6. And as we expand out of Florida, we're doing the top 3 flavors, which is toasted mallow, chocolate chip, and birthday cake.
Yeah.
So so to answer the initial question, how many SKUs? I think over the years we've had up to 20.
Okay.
But we focus on the top 5, and then we have the all other ones, and we have fun. We just launched our first savory bar, which
I was
people
gonna
were
ask about
very
that.
curious about. And
Savory.
Like,
so it's like
it has a cheesy
it's
or herby herbs.
yeah, like people, like you think of like a
Chive
Cajun turmeric,
or-
right?
yeah,
Like
Okay.
those kind of things. But we did everything.
So
big.
who's designing these different flavors?
We've tried so many different flavors. So when people do
That's
offer,
so
I'm
fun,
sure,
though.
like
Yeah.
people, you like, oh, hey, you should do this, and they offered unsolicited opinions to you.
Right.
Like, you can take it with a smile and say thank you. But we try it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we've tried it all. We've tried different citrus ones. It hasn't worked. That was the initial flavor. They wanted a pineapple flavor for Delray because like beach and
Yeah,
pineapple. And
pineapple.
But they
too.
all have a peanut butter
yeah,
base
it's
to
all
it.
a peanut butter base. We'd had an almond butter line that was great, and it just wasn't. It essentially we weren't. I don't want to say making money on it because that sounds terrible. But at the end of
Wasn't
the day,
selling, or?
it was selling, but
It wasn't
the price of
profitable?
almonds went up.
Okay, so
okay.
And it
your
was,
margin wasn't there.
And when you sell a bar that's the same size, peanut
Right.
butter versus almond butter.
Yeah.
Now, if you go buy a jar of almond butter, it's more than peanut butter, and people
Right.
are like, "Well, why is that?"
Right.
And it's kind of, you can't charge more for an almond butter bar because people don't get it, and that they have to
So
get it.
are all your bars the same size?
Same size,
Same, yeah.
Are they
Little
all the same
squares.
price?
same price,
They're
Same
squares.
price.
yeah, same thing.
And
So you
what
may-
is the price? I mean, God, I don't ever look at the price of like
Yeah,
protein
so-
She doesn't look at the
bars.
price of anything.
No, that's
But-
Nothing.
No, I mean,
phenomenal.
yeah.
You're our best
I was
customer.
like-
Yeah, so it'll retail as low as $2.99, and then some of the more high-end boutiques, like if you look, I'll just say like the most I ever saw, and it hurt my heart, was $8.
Oh, jeez, yeah.
But it's like the same thing. Like you can get a bottle of
Yeah,
water
yeah.
for 50 cents,
Cents.
and then you can go to a hotel in Miami, and the same bottle of water will be $10.
It's so
Right.
true.
Are you in any hotels or spas?
We're in
or?
a couple hotels that we've just through knowing people.
Okay.
You know, we've gotten in a couple like Ritz's and Hilton's, and golf courses are a big deal
Yeah,
for
I
us.
would
So if there are any
think
golf course
so.
listeners out there that want to up their game in the
I was gonna
snack
say,
bar
I would
game,
think.
let me know.
Healthy snacks.
Yeah. And there is that initiative. There are people looking for better ingredients, and we're going up against some heavy hitters, right? There are a lot of people and, influencers and people that have clout, whether, I'm going to say this in the nicest way, whether they deserve it or not.
Yeah.
And then they create a product, and the product might be full of
Right,
crap.
like, yeah, you're right.
But they have a following, and the following will go out there and buy it, and that's great. And we've tried to channel into that. It works.
You have a lot of competitors that you kind of focus on or think about?
I want to say this in the nicest way. We don't focus on them.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I can't. I know there's.
You've been successful staying in your own
Yeah.
lane. I feel like.
Yeah, and it's tough. I mean,
working.
there's companies that have come out after me that have already sold for hundreds of millions of dollars, and I've talked with people in the industry that have given me my time in like the beverage or food industry that are like, you think, oh my God, and I had one guy, sit me down and he's like, we spent X amount of dollars on marketing, and it was a number that I was blown away by, and he said at the end of the day we created this awesome brand. He's like, however, I own 5%.
Right.
And I said, well, 5% of, and to grow it, he had to do that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they're a nationally
sold off.
global recognized brand.
Right.
And when they do get acquired, regardless if they do or not, he'll do fine, and he did fine to get to where he is today.
Right.
But you learn the process, and it's nice because the industry, you can encounter some really, I hate to say, shitty people, like any business, right? And that you can meet some really cool people. And a recent conversation with a buddy of mine in the beverage industry, he goes, everything looks really good on social media. He's like, but behind the curtain. He goes, it's you got to remember, and I appreciated him saying that because he's done very well for himself. But he too feels the same pains that my wife Chelsea and I feel with trying to grow a brand.
Oh yeah, it's the same here.
So is the two of you the owners? Do you have partners? Do you have investors?
We had somebody come when we were going to do a safe round and have family and friends and people in the community that have always offered. We looked at doing that, and then we had somebody that came in that was essentially a unicorn. He's one of the greatest humans I've ever met, and we knew him for a while, and he was always just like silently rooting for us. And when we ran it by him, because we value his opinion, he's incredibly smart and very successful. He basically was like, yeah, rather than do a bunch of people, why don't you just have one investor?
Wow.
And he was like, me.
Here I am.
And we were like,
I love that.
and I ran that by obviously like my team and, legal and everything. And they were like, yes, just because you need
did he bring anything else to the table besides just funds?
Yeah, connections and fun. Yeah, a very strategic partner. Very strategic partner.
That's the right type to.
We're super grateful for him. He's been very generous. He's been very understanding and knows what it takes to grow a business in this industry, and it takes a lot of money, a lot of time, and a lot of patience, and we're here for it. Yeah.
So what does the day-to-day look like for promoting the product, like with social media? And I know you're like, in my opinion, a local influencer. I mean, you're pretty out there.
I want to say it's a very curated look that is run by a lot of really smart women, not me.
Okay.
And I have no problem saying that because they're really good at making it look good as it is. We've, over the years, had people come and go, as mentioned. We have a great, a great team that are really good at PR. We have a great team that's really good at the channels, like the Instagrams, the Facebooks, the TikToks, and all of the things that
are they internal or are you using companies?
Yeah. We tried the company route. We had some success creatively, performance-wise. Let's just say it wasn't the best.
That would make sense.
And it's fine. Some things work, some things don't. And I guess as they say, it's like hire. What is it? What's the saying? It's hire this and fire fast. But
yeah, hire quick
sometimes
and
you're
fire
locked
fast.
into these contracts where you're just you can't really do much until the time is up. And that's been in creative companies. That's been in brokerage houses. And I think at the end of the day, no one's going to sell the product like I am.
Right, it's true. And even somebody with the in-house
people,
passion.
if they hire you, they want you.
Yes.
You have a team, and but you can't be everywhere.
Right.
But I think it's really important at the core of it is like we're authentically us. We don't come off in a certain way. We just are who we are, and We share when it's hard. We share when it's good. And sometimes people would say we overshare. But that's just our journey, and that's what we love to be about, and be real about it. Like, we don't post every day behind the scenes because, like, not that it's boring, but it's a business and it's running. And, we have a lot of fun, and in our team, like, we really love our culture. We really love, people are excited to come to work, and I've heard countless stories of people that hate their job and hate showing up to what they do and working for other people. And we strongly encourage the people that work with us. Anytime you want to leave or do something yourself, like, we get the entrepreneurial spirit. We love it. We want you to do it. However we can support you, let us support you. Mm-hmm. Even people that have gone on to start their own snack bars.
Really?
Which has happened.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
It's tough, but if people want to do it, go for it.
Yeah.
You could call a place in California and have your own snack bar tomorrow if you wanted to.
So true.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't be from the same passionate heart.
I've experienced that in so many different scenarios and businesses.
Well, as you juggle FroPro, you also have a podcast. Mm-hmm. You're in that space too, which I love. Like, your niche is kind of wake up the sun, which I feel like it's a lot of successful people's morning routine.
Yep. Yeah.
And, part of when I started iDesign Lab, my passion was I love everybody's stories. I feel like everybody has so much to tell, and we have so much to learn from people.
Sure.
And I feel like it's fun to hear that little niche of what the morning routine is, because it's so important to our successful day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you learn a lot from successful people, right? And
Without
I've had
doubt.
Business owners, moms, doctors, athletes, entertainers, every walk of life, people that have had, overcome tragedies. I've had somebody on the show that was at one point pronounced dead that is living and making the most out of life.
Wow.
And I'm open to interview anybody. I mean, you need to come on my show. It's not as nice as this studio, but it's quaint. But it's really great to ask people and to just drive those same questions. Some of the questions, the majority of the questions are the same for everyone. Some have gone on. Some stories I've interviewed people and
multiple
times, and we've gone off topic and talked about returning your shopping cart, which I think is very important.
It is.
Returning what?
The shopping cart.
It's like
when you're done with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's really good to understand what drives people and makes them successful, and everybody is successful in their own right, whatever they are.
So Tiffany told me earlier that you had a podcast. The first thing that I think is the podcast must be about FroPro. Must be about your product.
No.
Because the other thing that I've also realized is that knowing you and hearing about you, today I'm learning it really seems like your wife is.
She should be sitting here.
Yeah, to talk about it.
Well, you designed it, though.
Yeah.
She's taken your baby and grown it.
Yeah, I will say that she is forever way smarter than me and way better at running the company in the day-to-day. When it comes to being a founder, doing this and doing FaceTime and doing the speaking engagements and doing the demos and standing and
dancing in front of hundreds of
dancing in front of people and slinging snack bars. Yeah. She's great at it, but that's like the give and take of the relationship.
It
is. I could I sit at a desk and do what she does? Sure. Would it necessarily be the best place for me to serve? Probably not.
Right. And recognizing that is such a blessing and a gift at the same time. I mean, as Scott kind of got pushed into my world of the design world, it's kind of, he knows where I need help and where I struggle. So I'm good at one thing, and I feel like there's such a gift and a blessing in knowing our roles and where we're served best.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah, it's truly, it's like when you have you guys work together. You've been together for a long time.
Only in the last 3-4 years.
Right. Since COVID, honestly.
Well, kind of, maybe during COVID, I kind of got involved, but for 15 years or 16 years that we were married, I never got involved in her business whatsoever.
We never even spoke all day long.
About her business.
It's crazy.
And it's interesting to be, in the same essentially office doing things and going to do your own thing and doing what you do outside of here. And that's what I think works. Like I see my wife all the time, but there are days where we see each other all the time, but one of our biggest things that we do for connection is at the end of every day, we eat a meal and then we go for a walk. And
I love that.
we might have talked about something or it needs to be brought up again, or sometimes like it's
Revisit.
rare, but there are those walks where we're just quiet and just being outside and just being together.
I get a charge working with my wife.
I'm sure she's a very dynamic woman.
Well, I've said this a number of times on this podcast to other people. I've worked with probably some of the most talented people on the planet, from Paul McCartney and Billy Joel and so many different names. But no one
Right.
is more creative than what my wife does.
That's
And
a little biased, but
no, but
That's
I'm
incredible, though.
I'm amazed by what she does every day.
Yeah.
Amazed. I mean, like, what she does to people's homes. I mean, I can tell you a quick little story. When I first started with her, she was doing a house. The people were spending like $400,000 on wallpaper. And I was like, I said to her one night after dinner, I said, "Are you sure you're doing the right thing by picking?" Because I looked at all the wallpaper she had picked.
oh,
I
it's
was
just
like,
all they were
I was
wild
like,
wallpapers.
these people are this wallpaper's going to go up, and people are going to freak out, and they're going to want their $400,000 back. Because I didn't understand how it all went together, because
how
it
you
was
put it together.
wild stuff.
Yeah.
But when the house was, and you know what she said to me? She says, "Don't question me in what I do."
Yeah.
And I stood back and go, "Okay."
Yeah.
And I for the next 2 months, I was expecting these people to like call the office saying, "You screwed up our house. We want our $400,000." Totally the opposite.
Yeah.
People were over the moon
Of
when it was
course.
done. And when I walked into the house, I was like, "Holy crap! This is the most unbelievable place I've ever seen."
I think the best advice that you've probably heard is just get out of the way when they're
Yeah,
doing their
exactly.
thing. And that's
Well,
kind
there
of
was
the
such
approach.
Success in that.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely have my strong suits, but I definitely have things I need help on.
Yeah, I joke around a lot where like someone will ask me something, I'm like, that's a question for the boss.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Because like I don't want to give you the wrong
I say
answer.
that.
Well, I say that
I
all
bet you
the
I say
time,
that.
too.
I say
Yeah.
that probably 3-4 times a day when
Oh,
people
yeah.
ask me. "Oh, you gotta talk to Tiffany
Talk
about
to the
that."
talk
We
to the
both
boss.
kinda say that.
So, getting back to the podcast, what
Yeah.
is the podcast about? What's the?
So it's a podcast based off like rituals, routines, and consistency. And not everybody has to be a morning person.
Rituals,
That's good.
routines, and consistency.
Yeah, like what do you do
Every
to make
day
you
or
successful
every-
in whatever it is that you do, whether you have a business, whether you're an athlete, whether you're an entertainer.
Interesting.
Whether you're a mom and you're running the shit out of everyone else's life, which is typically
Right.
what moms do.
Right, yeah.
And it's cool to just hear everybody's story, right? And everyone's like, "Are you monetizing this? Are you doing this?" I'm like, "Yeah, I've gotten some cool things. I'm not getting paid for it. I just like sitting down with people and hearing their stories and what they came from and what they have done." And one of the best podcasts was from a good friend of mine that I've known for years. She had a rough go, and she came on the show to talk about what I wanted to ask her. And we didn't talk about one of the things, not one question. I didn't get to answer or ask any of my questions.
Right.
And she talked about the 2 years of struggle that she had.
Wow.
And it was one of the most downloaded episodes to date.
Wow.
And that because people knew her.
And didn't probably know she was
and
even
knew
struggling.
that there was, some didn't
Or
know they were struggling,
did,
some
or-
did. But it gave so many people hope because she talked about, like, we're talking about to the point of not wanting to be on the planet anymore type
Yeah.
of struggle, where she was like,
Wow.
I don't want to be here, to what she's doing now. And she's a successful woman. And
But that's-
so many people reached out and were like, thank you.
Wow. I needed that.
And like, I'm not, and it was truly like, it was really good for me to hear that, because I played it for my kid, or I played it for
Wow.
my family member, and said like, everybody has their stuff.
Everybody.
Everybody. And it doesn't matter.
So that sounds like a very personal and rewarding podcast for
I
yourself
love,
to do.
again, it's I hate saying it, but like making the peanut butter snack bars, selfishly I like peanut butter and I like dessert, so I shared
Right.
it with everybody. Selfishly I like talking to people and spending time with people.
So
and
it was a
if
good
I can
fit.
share and do it, and people are like, what's the point of doing, now yes, is it good to make money? Sure. But I think there's so much in putting out other people's, as our friend would say, tragedies, turning them into triumph.
Yeah.
It's so important.
It is.
And it's not all the time, but I go through these phases where I'll have 5 or 6 people on the show. I'll let the episodes go, and I don't force it. I use, it's like, we have to do one a week.
Yeah.
We have to do this. We have to do that. And then it
Sounds familiar.
Right, and then it becomes not really fun.
Right.
And like, I want to have fun. Like, I'm having fun here. I'm sitting
Right.
down. I was looking forward to this because you guys have busy schedules. And I was like, man, I don't want to wait a month to do this because I want to do it with you guys now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But everybody's busy. And it truly is it's really great to get to know people. And it's really good to also understand that, you might be struggling with something and feel like the only one struggling with it. And then hearing that you're not is incredible.
I agree. Well, and considering we didn't touch much on it in this story yet, but you're somebody who's overcome a lot, and you've used that transformation as quite a launch to.
Thank
and
you.
how do you still give that attention each day?
Well, I was given a lot of suggestions when I got sober in 2010. From the very basics and kind of built off those. It's like you have to build a foundation first, as I'm sure you've heard. And it's been, in May will be 15 years of sobriety, which is just wild. But taking those little things and like those little principles that I learned along the way, integrity being one of the most important.
Yeah.
And just really trying to practice those in all of my daily activities, right? And I fall short often. I don't always speak the most eloquently. I can have human moments, which, I've talked about on the podcast, which is tough because sometimes when you're, I don't want to say in this egotistical way, but when you're the go-to guy or you're always like the positive guy, and then you have a human moment and everyone's
epitomize,
like, hey man, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, I'm having a moment.
Right.
And I'm not handling this accordingly. But I'm aware of it, and I have people in my life that hold me accountable, and like even Chelsea will, I had a rough patch about a month ago, and I opened to sharing about it when the fact that we were sitting there and like everything is good.
Right.
Business is good.
Yeah.
Training is good. My health is good.
Yeah.
Family's health, like all the good things are good.
Yeah.
But I was just stuck in this like shitty space in my head. And
Did something bring it on? Did something?
No, because we had just gotten back from like an amazing trip and work and family and everything, and I wasn't celebrating and grateful for it. I was focusing, like I say, if there's like 10 things to do and I do 9 out of 10 right, I don't focus on the 90% I did right. I focus on the 10% that I might have kind of like,
Yep.
And I sit in it.
Me too.
And she she's very, very loving, but like knows when to turn it on, and she's like. And she basically said, I don't know if I don't want to, language-wise, but she basically at dinner, she's like, I don't know who the fuck is sitting across from me because it's not you. And I was like,
whoa.
And she goes, I love you. I don't really know what's going on with you
right
because,
today.
but all this stuff is great. And I was like, you're right. And I was sitting in some things that I wasn't, I was trying to put it off and blame, and it was just my own stuff that I had to kind of work through.
So how long does that process take to work through? Like when you finally recognize it? I feel like I could get there too.
Yeah, it's a lot shorter than it used to be. I if I'm sitting in it longer than like 2 days, it's a problem. But I normally realize when I'm not 100% or I'm a little drained, and I'm still on my own, try to figure it out without talking about it, and try to be like the hero and realize that that's not the place to be.
But I think most people who are very driven go through that every so often. And most people think that people who are very driven, or you look at someone who's a person, I'll say an athlete, at the highest pinnacle, they don't think, most people think, well, they don't have any problems. They're perfectly fine. Everything's great.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I was at this really cool event, and this gentleman spoke who's a professional baseball player, and he tried to kill himself. And he didn't succeed in that and is permanently scarred. But talks about how he was the probability of him being a professional athlete is in the single digits. To make it to the league that to make it to the level that he made it, single digits. To succeed in that, even less. And he had done that. Yet he was still in pain and still, I'm not enough. And that's the biggest thing that I struggle with, which I can share about because I've done, like Tony Robbins and all, all these, like I've read the books and I've gone to seminars, And it was a lot more intense when I was starting over, you know, and then I just recently went to one and I still had that, I'm never going to be enough.
Right.
And I'm a loser. And like, I still can tell myself that stuff. And no one's telling me that except me.
I know.
And that's the wildest thing, because like, I wasn't raised that way. My parents were loving, my brother, everybody. But like, you get to a place where you're like, why am I talking to myself that way?
I know.
Because if you look on paper,
it's all
like you said, I've overcome a lot.
Yeah.
But there are times where it's like, I don't know if you guys do like a major project or you work on something and rather than be like so happy that the $400,000 wallpaper worked and the people are like,
they're over the moon.
Here's another check for being awesome.
Yeah.
You're like, what's next?
Yes, without
right?
a doubt.
And you're not like, wow, that was really, wow, you know how long we worked on that?
I know.
But that's the mark
And
of
to
somebody that's
enjoy
constantly
driving.
going for
I
it.
have a lot of friends that are former or professional athletes, and I've had a lot of conversations with friends just about this.
Yeah.
In different aspects, and you'd think, okay, you're making $9 million a year. You're on. Everyone knows your name, and you're going through this little situation.
Yeah.
I mean,
human.
We're
having a human experience.
We really are having a.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, one of the biggest things with a lot of buddies is when they retire.
I'm sure.
Or the career ends. It's a real shock for the average
That's
person.
another thing in general. Just life changes. Like
I went through it
retirement.
for many years in running a company, and what I did, it only came about by accident, is that I used to ride motorcycles a lot. But I started going on these trips. I'd go across Australia. I'd go from one
kids.
end before kids.
I was just saying, this is
but
before
I'd go
kids.
from one end of South America all the way to the very tip.
Yeah.
With two other buddies. But it would take 30 days to do some of these. Went across Russia.
Yeah, wow.
On a motorcycle. Wild. But I enjoyed doing it because I was running a business that was so intense with so many employees that 25 to 30 days on a motorcycle,
you need it.
I was able to clear my head and think about life.
Yeah.
I mean, just imagine.
You went on walkabout.
And I've talked about this.
We need those moments.
But I would be on a motorcycle, and for days I would think about, why are we here? Why are we here on this planet?
Yeah.
Like, who am I and why am I here and why is this planet and how did this all happen?
Yeah.
And you start thinking about, like, you can't tell anyone you're talking about something like this because it's so deep.
Well, you could probably talk to the right people about it.
Yeah.
I love that.
Back then I wouldn't tell people. That's what I was thinking about.
Yeah, like, what is it all about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you really start thinking about it.
Well, and we're so big in our own heads too. I mean, and we're such small morsels, of a big picture. Like
there's a comedian that talks about, I won't say his language, but he's like, we're spinning on a ball in the middle of expanding nothingness.
Correct.
And then he follows it up with some intense language. But
I know, but
it's true.
Who's what comedian is that?
I forget it. I literally, Neil deGrasse Tyson is the scientist that was listening to him talk about his bit and was like,
well,
we're literally like, we're like so insignificantly significant.
Correct.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
And it's, and it's sad to think is you work at a company or you sell a company or you do all this stuff and then it's over. And it's like, even in today's world, like you could be the hottest thing in whatever you're doing. And then something else will come out or you'll stop doing it or you'll retire or sell. And it's great. Like hopefully you make a lot of money and you're good with that.
Look at it from a different perspective.
Right.
I sitting on a motorcycle thinking about one of the trips, my grandfather had just passed away.
Right. Oh, right.
And I'm thinking about my grandfather, who I had the greatest times as a kid with. Was born in the early 1900s. But every single person, millions of people, are gone and have been forgotten about.
Right. Well, it's like,
so there's going to be a point where I'm going to be gone
and forgotten about.
Right.
So, like, what does that all mean in the scheme of things? We're just like...
Even the people that are very well-to-do that have their names on buildings, once they're gone, there's going to be another person with probably, if not more, that will have their name on the building that you had your name on. And
I know.
You will be long forgotten. And that's the whole thing is you can look at it in a negative way, which is in 100 years, no one's going to remember any of us sitting here.
That's correct.
Right?
Correct.
We'll probably have made an impact on the people that we know and
I
passed
recently-
down from
I
your
recently-
kids to their kids to
Exactly.
their kids.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I was recently having a conversation with my 3 girls about, can they name all the presidents of the United States?
You know.
There's maybe 4 or
I can't.
5.
Me neither.
But think of a person who was a
memorize that
president of the
content.
United States. There's so many of them that people today never even heard of him
Right.
before, but he was the president of the United States.
Yeah. The most important position.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But all of this thinking for me has made me realize is that we're all on this planet for such a short, fairly period of time.
Mm-hmm.
You got to make the most of it. You
Right.
got to enjoy every moment of it.
Mm-hmm.
You got to overcome all your situations and problems that you
Because
you
we're
run
here for a
across.
reason too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're and I think if you're creating a change or you're doing something that you love and it impacts the community, like that's the biggest thing. Like this community helped save my life. You know, the people in this community, the parents in this community, the certain businesses that were like, let's give this guy a chance.
Right.
Like I'll never forget that.
No, and
you
you've
know?
given back to this community
Yeah.
so beautifully.
Thank you.
I mean, you really have.
I
And it's
appreciate that.
always a champion of positivity and, creativity and
Well, you
grace.
got a great reputation in this town. I mean,
Appreciate it.
you're very well liked. And
There was a period of time where that was not the case.
But isn't that,
And that
I mean,
was
No, but
the
you-
resilience.
years ago.
you've turned it around miraculously and wonderfully.
Thank you. I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
And the only one
Yeah.
who probably says that now is yourself.
Yeah, no,
you know what I
there are times where it's like, I definitely I damaged a lot of relationships in my addiction and my use, and ran over people that were just trying to be helpful and kind and caring, and I wasn't able to receive it. And I'm really grateful for that now, because it is everything to me, you
Right.
know. And there are days, don't get me wrong, where I'm like, man, I just, Chelsea and I are like, let's just move to a mountain where there's a
Well,
lake
I think
and
we all
like
say that.
and
So
no
that's
one's
normal
around.
too.
And she'll respond. She's like, "Yeah, that would be cool until you wanted to hang out and play pickleball or golf with someone or
Yeah.
hike with someone, and then you'd go nuts." And I was
Correct.
like,
Want to have a conversation.
probably right.
I know. I say that
Yeah.
to my
Well, it's-
kids.
it's
Unless you
kinda-
want to go to the mall and you want to
Yeah,
go to
right.
buy
Yep.
something.
Sure.
Stuck in the middle, go to a nice restaurant.
Yeah.
I think
Absolutely.
that's where balance is, the beautiful
Yeah.
balance that we all strive for every day.
Well, it's like the name of our podcast. We're all redesigning our life constantly.
Yeah, I love that right there. That's
Well,
a great.
I
logo.
was one of my morning routines I started this year was doing catechism in a day. I'm
Oh.
Catholic and I do
Yeah.
it, and I'm like, I listen to podcasts all day long. Like the
Mm-hmm.
least I can do is give a little bit back. And one of the very first ones on day 3 was how wherever there is design is a designer.
Mhm.
So God designed the planet.
The chief design, yeah.
Right, the chief designer. I was like, that just made me like more into this journey of podcasting, because we all are constantly, wherever there is a thing, an item, a feeling,
Mhm.
a routine,
It's
it's
created.
been designed.
Yeah, love that.
I know.
That's a great gift.
So that was my little
Mm-hmm.
morning tidbit.
She's a podcast junkie. It's been the last month she's been listening to, it was like, what did you just call it? It was like, it's like church, listening to.
But they're positive.
Yeah. No, I mean,
The
I've
growth.
listened. I listen to, like I said, some of the motivational stuff and podcasts and like little blurbs that I can find online and things that connect. Where you're like, oh man, this is great, and it's little tidbits, and that's how we digest everything, right? Like
Nowadays, for
yeah,
sure.
like are you, if I'm going on a walk or I'm on a long drive, I can listen to a podcast, but for the most part, I'm not sitting. I'm always doing something else.
Right.
While
moving.
listening. Yes.
Which is also a big part of who you are.
Yeah.
Training,
Yep.
personal training, health and wellness, lifestyle.
Yeah. It's important. It's got to listen to your body and train a certain way. And
So are you still training people now?
yes, I am. Yeah.
Really?
And it was interesting. I thought when I was young, I'm like, FroPro's going to do this, and then I'm going to stop training. And my older brother, he's like, well, you're going to stop training? I said, well, yeah, I know I'm going to do it. He's like, but don't you love it? And I'm like, well, yeah.
Yeah.
He goes, so
Why would you?
why would you stop doing it? I said, oh, well, yeah, I guess you're right.
Right.
He's like, yeah, like that. You're good at it. You're helping people. Am I training as much as I did when I restarted? No.
No, but there's the balance.
yeah.
Like you get to still have that.
And I love it. Like it truly is. when someone comes to you, right, and they want to do a project
Right.
or whatever, overhaul in the house or just like a minor thing.
Yeah.
They're coming to you for a reason because you're the professional. You're the one.
They trust you.
Yeah, you're the one,
Yeah.
right? And they know your history. They know who you are. They know other people that have worked with you, and they're like, well, we want to work with you. And you can't help everyone.
No.
But, you know, when you do it, you're not just half-assing it, right? And there are days I'm sure where you're like, oh, God, I don't want to do this. And I have those days too, even though I love it.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you're helping someone. You're creating an experience, and you're designing something that's going to hopefully improve some portion of their life.
And it's true.
Right. And you know, and I've worked with, it's crazy. I've worked with families, huge families, every kid,
Family
adult,
member.
aunts, uncles, you know.
I love that.
And you become part of a family, right? And you become part of like the story a little bit. And yeah, I think that's pretty cool. And the other thing that I got really into was like the coaching and the mental health, substance abuse space, working with private practitioners that are like intensive therapists that I can kind of assist what they meet with these people on in the day-to-day.
Wow.
Whether it's just kind of like performance coaching, right? Where you're helping them achieve the things that they're talking about and trying to either, whether it's business and life, relationships. The only thing I can't really speak to is being a parent, even though I've worked with kids forever. I don't have kids. So like when someone's like, oh, I'm like, I don't want to give you advice on that because I might be a little bit harsh in certain areas, how I operate.
I
but
know they say.
Yeah, I can speak to the experience that I have and hopefully shed some light on it. But if I don't, I'm very clear. Like I wouldn't be able to help you with that. I don't have the answers for that.
So do you go to people's homes or do you go to a facility?
So we have
people meet you at a facility?
Yeah, they come to so right next to our production facility, we do have a fitness facility. So people train there. It's private training. You have to work with the trainer. 3 of my friends run their clients out of there. It's a nice little small family of, people that get along, work really hard. And then
committed people.
Yeah. And then with like the other coaching, like I said, work with private practice. Like I've had people reach out, and I've been in, sober for 15 years and worked with different organizations and done run clubs and done different things.
I love that too.
So when people are like, hey, I got this guy that could use a little Maddie Williams in his life. And I'm like, oh, that's very nice of you to say. Like, how do you think I could possibly help this person? And kind of work with them. And there's people that I've been very clear on, like, I don't know if I can help them. It might be something out of my bandwidth, but this person might be able to help them better. And I think that's what a community is, right? Like,
without a doubt,
you have to find the go-to,
without a
and
doubt.
you have to hopefully be able to say, if I can't do it, this person or this person would be good for that person.
I know, and there's wealth of information in letting that go, so that person does get to the right one.
100%.
So what do you see in the future for yourself?
Well,
And you think far out?
Yeah, no, I mean, like the grand, like 3 to 5 to 10 year plan.
Yeah.
Well,
Like, do you have a goal with, FroPro?
Yeah, I mean, our goal is to be nationally sold in all the Whole Foods. So that would be every Whole Foods in, I would say,
have one in
the
every
galaxy.
State? Yeah, do they? There might be one on Mars in the
Yeah,
next 20 years.
Who knows? Yeah, I would love to just keep expanding FroPro. I think in addition to it being an excellent snack bar, the story behind it and what we share with that is super important. I think will help change and help people along the way. Personally, yeah, I mean, just continue to work out and enjoy, the walks with my wife and traveling and doing really fun things that, we can do within reason that, allow us to. Do a little bit more. Yeah, I think, with FroPro personally. Yeah, I mean, I love it here. I don't want to go anywhere.
I know.
We love our home.
Lucky, yeah,
we love the things about South Florida. I would love to eventually maybe have, like I said, a house somewhere on a mountain by a lake where I could hike a couple months out of the year.
Florida?
I'm from New York originally.
Where in New York?
Right outside of New York City, Westchester County.
Okay.
Yeah, I grew up there, and yeah, I just love what I'm doing. And I look at, my mom's 84. She's just starting to think about not working.
Oh my God, God bless.
Wild, right? Like she's starting to be like, and I'm the youngest of 3 boys, and we're all like, Mom, you could have stopped working years ago, like when Dad died. You do what you want, but I look at that as like maximizing and enjoying as much as you can while you can, because again,
No guarantees.
Am I going to be here tomorrow? Am I going to be here 50 years from now?
Correct.
I don't know.
None of us do.
Right. So I think
That's why you got to live every moment and enjoy.
yeah, and not every moment's positive, and everybody's like, "Oh, you're so
Yep.
positive all the time." Like, not every moment. I have my human moments.
I know.
But like while here, I feel like I wasted a good 12 to 13 years being a selfish asshole.
Really?
In my addiction, still doing things that I love, but for the wrong reasons.
Right.
That coming up on 15 years and being able to just watch other cool things happen, and as my sponsor would say, like, be a lighthouse and just watch the sunrise, watch the sunset, help people, guide people when you can, and just do it. That's kind of like,
It's a good place to be.
yeah, it feels good. Like I feel good today, like
That's good.
It's a good feeling.
That's good.
Yeah. How about you guys? What are you guys gonna like? I mean,
We're going to.
how old is your youngest now?
Well, we have twins who are 15.
Yeah, okay,
They're
right.
the youngest.
They're the youngest.
We have an
They're
18.
freshmen in
American
high
Heritage.
school right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
And I say I'm in denial a little bit because it's going so fast.
Yeah.
The whole,
Tiffany's all worked up that we have 4 more years.
now we're down to 3.5 more.
But we got to
And that's
pack
why-
it all in.
Yeah.
Get a lot,
Yeah.
travel
But
the world before they want to venture out into the world
Of course.
with them. So we've been doing that.
Family time is important.
I know, and as being a working parent and a perfectionist in my own, way I live, it's very hard because I do love what I do, and I can't imagine what I would do every day if I wasn't doing what I do. But then it's so hard to find that,
She loves what she does.
balance.
Yeah, you're very good at it.
So
It's interesting. The only reason I asked that is I'm going to visit my mom this weekend. She's 84. And I heard, Jesse Itzler?
no.
Married to Sarah Blakely, Spanx.
Oh yeah, of
Right.
course. I
So
didn't-
he started and sold several different companies.
yes,
They're
yes.
both wildly successful.
I follow both of them.
But
yeah.
he shared something once. He's like, as we grow up, and this is probably not going to help your thinking that your kids are old at this point. But he said, if you don't live near your parents or your family, and you see them twice a year, and I was like, well, that's about accurate. I see them twice a year. And you look at like the median age of how long women or men live. And I was like, okay, yeah, so like women, 88, so 4 years. He goes, if you only visit he was saying his family, if you only see them twice a year and they have X and you compare it to the median average. So I did the math, and like this is a while ago, but let's just say when my mom was 80,
Okay.
most women lived to 88. I was like,
The lowest of any country,
right.
the United States,
Right.
88.
And my mom's a healthy lady, but it's interesting because he said if you see your loved ones twice a year and you have 8 years left, that means you have 16 visits. And I was like,
All right,
I literally,
I'm getting on the plane.
yeah, I literally sat there and I was like, that's really sad.
I know.
And not that like me living next to my mom would be any, you know what I'm saying?
Well, sometimes I've often said with family who doesn't live nearby, sometimes it's a blessing to not live by, because when you do go see each other, depending on the dynamics,
Yeah.
of course, it's a celebration, it's a holiday. People aren't just working, where if you're in your everyday routines, your visits just become pass off. They're
Yeah.
not truly like
Time spent. Yeah.
So
I
there's
talked to my mom just before we walked into the studio.
I love that. Yeah.
Good.
It's like saying talking to them is one thing, but it's and it just made me think it's spend time with those that you
Yeah.
love if
Yeah.
it's possible, because everybody has things going on and kids running around and travels and this and that
It's
happening.
so true.
And then all of a sudden, like,
Yep.
they're not there.
I know.
Yeah. So I guess that's done by design.
Yes.
It is. I know.
Well, you got to design to get yourself.
Well, even with us, when we were first together, we started our businesses, we were so into, the social life and charity things and building on, to our careers that way too. And the minute we had children, like,
Yeah.
it just
all that went away.
went away.
Its focus was on kids.
Of course, as
It's-
it should be,
it's- so
right?
it's-
That's the deal.
Right. So it's kind of all we know right now. And it's like they're getting older and they are getting their own little social world. And,
Not fun hanging out with mom and dad anymore.
I mean, they
No.
still like to hang out.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But
You guys are fun
I have
people.
a hard time saying no to them when they want to go, grow up a little bit because I feel like
Sure.
it's healthy.
We try to design and create everything that we do around with them.
That's great.
So, concerts and music. And
They're big into concerts lately. That's like their
So-
thing.
All right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, you got to make that a priority. Well,
Yeah.
it's a priority to them until they're on to the next thing.
Yeah.
So we like to wrap out the podcast by asking a couple of
Hit me.
design questions.
Go for it.
You've mentioned a few times that you like, when you've been traveling, you like traveling.
Mm-hmm.
So we could change a little bit going where we're going here. So in your travels, are there any hotels that you would say were really cool from a design standpoint that stick out?
Oh, man.
Or that you thought were like, wow, that was a really cool hotel or really designed, or
Yeah.
we love hearing what people's
Sure.
thoughts are and stuff like
This
that.
is a Chelsea question because I'm going to just butcher this. I mean, when we go places, we like to stay like what we can in the place. Like we've traveled separately. I've traveled and lived abroad, so I've been to a lot of really cool places. Like in terms of design,
But design doesn't necessarily need to
It
be
could be a
expensive
feeling.
or
It
Oh, yeah, no,
or-
of course.
or it could be just
one of my favorite places I ever visited was the Alhambra, which is just a wild. I forget the city that it's in. I went 3 times because I lived in Mexico.
Wow.
And we went there a bunch, and it was just like a cool city. It was like a cool historical building. So like that, the first thing I thought of was like design wise, it's like, visiting, the Taj Mahal. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
just
Like
the design aspect of
Uh-huh.
it. In terms of feeling, man, in terms of feeling, like
where were you living in Mexico?
I was living in Cuernavaca, which
How
is right
fun.
outside of like.
Were you teaching there?
I was a student, so I was living in an immersive
So
experience
do you speak
with.
Spanish?
I hate saying yes, but I understand it way better because I don't
That's
practice
awesome.
it. But yeah, it's
What
always fun.
airport do you fly into?
You fly into Mexico City,
Okay.
and then you're about an hour and a half. It's called like the City of Eternal Spring, I want to say.
Uh-huh.
And I haven't been there in years, but it always made an impression because it was such a cool
Oh,
place
you
to
guys should
be.
go back
I
together. Have
need
you
to
been
go
with
back.
Chelsea?
No.
Oh, that would be so fun.
Yeah, and I lived abroad in Spain as well, and Madrid was really cool. I want to say like one of my favorite places I ever went was like Portugal for my 21st. I don't remember a lot of that day or those couple days, but like just the life there was pretty laid back. They
Yeah.
lived in homes, right by the beach. There was
Right by
everything
the
you needed.
sea,
It
all the
was
food is like
food is
decadent.
incredible. Like the experiences, I loved it. But in terms of like the States, there's certain parts of like Encinitas, California. I know some people don't like California. Whatever.
No, how can you not like California?
Yeah, I just that's such a cool little
Such a good
beachy
vibe.
kind of good vibe town. Growing up right outside of New York City, like being back in the city, it's nice. I'm not a city guy. My wife loves the city, and I'm just like, fortunately, we have friends that allow us to stay there because they have homes there. Like those feelings, like when the seasons are different. Obviously, we're in hot weather all the time down here.
Yep.
But there is something about being, like I said, in a mountain, in the
wait,
Carolinas,
hey.
In Asheville, Grove Park Inn.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
It's such a cool place.
That's
I know.
really nice.
That
Like
is
anything
cute.
up there is
Yeah.
really enjoyable.
So you love Ash.
Yeah, my parents had a home in Linville Ridge and Grandfather Mountain. They had
Yes.
a number of different.
Yes.
They moved around a little bit.
Yeah.
and
And like I love
It was
that.
like a second or a third home for them, but
Yeah, and I love that. Like I there's a bunch of places on my list I haven't been, and Scotland and Ireland, Australia. I'd like to go to. I'd love to go to a certain part of Asia and see like some of those major cities that
Yep.
just look incredible.
They do look incredible.
Wild, right?
I know.
But yeah, no, I mean,
I'm gonna get there
I think you can
too.
get a good feeling anywhere you go if you're with the right people, if that makes sense, as
Yeah.
corny as that sounds.
No.
But like, yeah, design-wise, like, yeah, my wife and Chelsea and I have a lot of places we'd love to visit at some point. We know that you just have to go do those things.
Yeah, you have
you
to
know.
make the time.
You have to make it a priority, and you have to
We're not very
invest
good
in
about
it.
that.
yeah, we're okay.
No, we're not very good about
Well, I mean, another 4 years, you guys do whatever you
Scott
want.
likes to base every trip around a work thing. It makes him feel better, I feel like.
I totally relate to that, though. I would say
Well, for years, we traveled a lot, but but work somehow always a day here. I would disappear or whatever.
Yep.
And it's because I had a litany of different retail products that I've taken to market.
Yeah.
So, depending on where we were, if it was going into a Petco or a PetSmart or a Target in a different city, I was doing that.
Yeah. No, listen, I totally get it. I would say the last major trip we went on for my 40th, we went to Palm Springs.
Ooh, I've never been there.
Yeah, and
it's
the drive there, it's a little creepy.
Interesting too.
Yeah, you're like in like that movie, like The Hills Have Eyes. Like it's like
so
creepy.
you drove from LA?
Yep, drove from LA, and we got there, and we were going to end in LA, per my wife at the one, of course.
Right.
But we went out there, and it was really nice. It was hiking, biking, golf. There was no work. And it was just like eating,
heaven.
Quality time. Like,
that is heaven.
Even though I'd wake up early and do my morning routine,
right.
like there were days, like it was a lot of sitting
scenery.
Around and just kind of like you said, like the clearing, right?
Yeah.
And then we were there, and
Palm Springs is unique. It's different.
Yeah.
Did you get to go tour around a little? Or?
Yeah, we bopped around a little bit. Then we said, you know what, like this has been fun. Let's drive to Encinitas and go visit some friends.
Yeah.
And then make our way to Santa Monica, and we just did like unprompted, which is rare for us.
Yeah, you just let it flow.
Right. And that was like the last like vacation, other than like a work, like we were just in Nashville to see family, but also demo at Whole Foods. Yeah. Like we're going to Asheville for a wedding. We're going early to demo at all the Whole Foods and staying after to demo at the Whole Foods. Because it makes sense. You're there.
I've been to Palm Springs a few times for parties.
Yeah.
And I went one time,
city.
and John, who's in the studio with us, I took him and a bunch of people. I won the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year. Oh. And then they had a big thing in Palm Springs where I was inducted into the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year Hall of Fame.
That's awesome. Congrats.
So it was
That's a big deal.
That is a big deal.
Back then it was. Yeah.
Still pretty cool.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
It is.
That's a big deal.
It is.
Love that. Nice.
Yeah. Nice. Well, thank you so much for your time today.
Of course.
And your story.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you for having
Appreciate
me.
it.
Yeah, it's always great to see you both, and keep crushing.
You too.
Yeah. The iDesign Lab.
iDesign Labs podcast is an SW Group production in association with the 5-Star and TW Interiors. To learn more about iDesign Lab or TW Interiors, please visit twinteriors.com.